Have you ever looked at an acupuncture protocol in a book or online and thought, well, this is great, but what do I do? Do I actually tonify this acupuncture point? Do I sedate this acupuncture point? You're not alone. This is the number one question I get. Clara, do I sedate this or do I tonify it? Today, my friend, we are fixing that one for good. I'm answering your question about what to do, what to sedate, what to tonify, where we are in practice. We're going to look at root pattern versus branch, deficiency versus excess, mixed patterns, which I think that's what we see the most in practice. And not only I'm going to talk about sedating and tonifying, but I'm going to look at the techniques. What are the techniques for sedating versus tonifying? I'm going to give you mini cases and examples, so hopefully that question can be put to rest. Are you ready? Let's go. The number one question students ask is, I have the protocol right here, but do I sedate or tonify these points? The problem is we're trying to decide the technique before getting the right diagnosis. Treating all points the same is probably not the solution. Guessing instead of applying logic. Now, how do we fix it? Let the diagnosis decide. Excess pattern, always sedate. Deficiency pattern, always tonify. Mixed pattern, this is what we're going to talk about, strategies. Before we continue, I want to make sure we understand what an excess pattern is versus a deficiency. And you're like, Clara, I think I know what a deficiency and excess pattern is. Yes, you do, because every time it says deficiency, you kind of know it's a deficiency, right? When we hear yin deficiency, yang deficiency, qi, blood deficiency, we know it's a deficiency pattern. A spleen qi sinking is also a deficiency pattern, we all agree. However, people get mixed up because if it says excess heat, okay, we know that's excess, right? Liver yang rising is excess. But a blood stasis, a liver qi stagnation, that is also excess. So I always teach my students that if it doesn't say deficiency, it is an excess, except for spleen qi sinking. Make sense? So everything that doesn't say the word deficiency is an excess. Excess dampness, excess heat, right? This is all going to be excess. Liver blood stasis, liver yang rising, liver fire. We got that, right? So let's just review a little bit of foundation because I think sometimes it's important to do so. So we want to identify the pattern and we want to differentiate the symptoms. When there is a deficiency, if we compare it to excess, yin versus yang, right? The length of disease, a long chronic is going to be more deficient than a short acute, which is more excess. Now, this is when we compare the two. Do not think that all long chronic disorders are all deficiency. It's when we compare it to short and acute. Make sense? However, a weak energy or fatigue, of course, is depletion, which is a deficiency, versus someone that has a lot of energy, that's more hyper, that's more excess. A weak low voice is always a deficiency versus a strong, loud voice like mine, that's more of an excess. If there is pain, if the person enjoys a massage, enjoys a rub, enjoys the pressure, that is a deficiency. If they do not want to be touched, if they dislike a massage, that's an excess, okay? A pulse that is weak, deep, thin is always a deficiency. A pulse that is big, large, full, forceful is always an excess. So obviously, for a deficiency, we tonify, and for an excess, we sedate. The diagnosis tells you the technique, not the other way around. Let's start with excess. We want to move if there's a stagnation. We want to clear if there's an excess dampness, excess heat. We want to move if there's liver qi stagnation, blood stasis. We want to clear if there's excess pathogen. And if there's a lot of rising, like liver yang rising, we want to bring the liver yang down. That's our treatment principle, but that's all under the sedate technique. Now, the needle insertion and withdrawal with sedating is we're going to insert quickly and withdraw slowly. We're going to leave the hole open. What does that mean? It means that we're not going to use a cotton ball to close and keep the qi in when we take the needle out. So we leave it open, meaning we're not going to put the cotton ball on it right away, unless it's bleeding, of course, and you have to wipe. So we can let the pathogen out. Okay? We can shake the needle slightly on removal as well. The direction and rotation. When we are sedating, we are going to go against the meridian flow. Meaning, if it's a long meridian, for example, it starts at the chest and its direction as it goes down along the arm and finishes at the thumb. So its direction is from the chest to the thumb. So if we're going to do, let's say, long 7 and we want to sedate, we're going to go against the flow, meaning we are going to needle long 7 towards the elbow on an angle that's going to be oblique. That's sedating. Yes? We can also add up some rotation that should be rapid with large amplitude. And usually it's counterclockwise rotation. When we sedate, we're going to lift firmly up and thrust lightly down. Insert the needle as the patient inhales, withdraw the needle as the patient exhales. Some example of sedating would be using liver 2 for liver yang rising, liver 3 for liver qi stagnation, gallbladder 20 for wind, spleen 9 for dampness, right? That makes sense. A lot of qi clef points, like the yang qi clef points specifically, are usually used for excess pathogen, to remove the pathogen and release the pain. Yin spring points are also really good to clear excess heat. So for sedating, think fast in, slow out, and leave the hole open for the pathogen to escape. So let me show you. We're going to insert quickly, whoop, and then we are going to withdraw slowly. Quickly, slowly, quickly, slowly. Yes? We can stimulate the needle by doing a big amplitude, right? So it's wide. I'm making it really wide right now, but it's wide. And we rotate rapidly in a large amplitude. So we said counterclockwise like this. This is stimulating the needles. We're going to insert quick and withdraw slow. And then we have our counterclockwise large amplitude stimulation. That is sedating. Now you'll see when we tonify, everything is in reverse. So instead of trying to memorize both, just memorize one and know that the other one is everything in the opposite. So let's look at tonifying. We're going to build up what's deficient, of course. So the way we insert the needle is very slow in, but withdrawing quickly. And then we want to close the hole after with a cotton ball to keep the qi in. We don't want the qi to escape. Does that make sense? For tonifying, the direction of the needle is going to be always with the flow of the meridian. So when we were talking about long 7, for example, we are going to be oblique towards the thumb. That is going to be the angle that goes with the flow of the meridian because the meridian finishes at the thumb. Now, a lot of people ask me, do I do this with every point? No, a lot of the points are perpendicular, so you don't have to add this up. It's only for points that are oblique. Like do 20 is the same thing. We can angle it towards the nose, which means it's going with the flow of the meridian, so that's tonifying. Or we can angle it towards the back of the head, which means it's against the meridian, and we are calming, bringing the energy down, while with the meridian, we are lifting the energy. Make sense? Not every point is oblique. Remember that if we have stomach 36, for example, it is a perpendicular point, so we don't have to worry about the angle. You don't have to worry about all this for every point. That's the good magic that acupuncture is. Now, when it comes to the rotation for tonifying, we want to rotate gently, clockwise, with small movement, and we're going to have a small amplitude. We want to insert as patient exhale, so it's the opposite, and we want to withdraw the needle as the patient inhale. Common points that we use, of course, when it comes to tonifying are stomach 36, spleen 6, kidney 3, kidney 6, ren 4, do 4. We have a lot of points that can tonify, right? UN source points are great to tonify. Backshoe points are great to tonify. For example, bladder 23, backshoe point of the kidneys, very good to tonify the kidneys. So we can use that point. Now, if you're doing bladder 23, you are going perpendicular, so you don't have to worry about it. And then here's what we do. We insert slowly and withdraw fast. Slowly in, fast out. Slowly in, fast out. Okay, so that's tonifying. When you are stimulating, you are doing clockwise, very small amplitude, and you're going much slower, right? Compared to sedating, where it's much faster and bigger amplitude. We're doing little ones like this. Make sense? And we are going to go clockwise. And remember that we always close the hole to preserve chi when we're tonifying a point. So for tonifying, think slow in, fast out, and close the hole. So a quick recap, this is why I gave you this little table. Insertion for tonifying, slow in, withdraw, quick out, and close the hole. For sedating, opposite. Insertion, very quick in, slow out, and leave the hole open to expel the pathogen. Rotation for tonifying is gentle, clockwise, small amplitude, and slow. While for sedating, we go strong, big amplitude, counterclockwise, much stronger, right? For thrusting, you go heavy in, light lift. Heavy in, light lift. For sedating, we go light thrust or light in and heavy lift. Direction, with the meridian flow, we tonify. Against the meridian flow, we sedate. We insert on exhale for patients that are deficient, and we insert on inhale for patients that are excess. But no matter what, always obtain the chi. What does that mean? When you are inserting the needle, you want to find the chi. What does that feel like? If you've ever gone fishing, it feels like a little tuck. You got the fish, and so your fish line, there's a tuck. It's very slight. It's so minor that if you're not present while you're trying to find the chi, you will not understand that you got it, okay? So you can ask patients for, are you feeling this? And they're like, oh yeah, that's really strong. Then maybe you didn't feel it, but they did. Until you practice a lot, you'll feel the chi. In some patients, it's much easier. In some points, it's much easier than others. So give yourself some grace. If some points you can't quite found it, it's okay. It's practice. But also patients are very weak, very deficient. It's very hard to find their chi because their chi is so weak. So give yourself some grace. It'll be much easier to find chi with excess patients. Now, you always have to tell patients that they can feel like a heaviness, a tingling sensation, a distending sensation. That means that chi has arrived and has connected with the needle, right? So this is what it should feel like. Use your patients as your communicating partner so you can both figure out where we are. Have we found the chi? Now, we've talked about excess versus deficiency, right? And we've talked about points, very basic. Now, let's talk about mixed patterns. And what do we do? So the real clinical challenge is, let's say someone has irritable bowel syndrome. With irritable bowel syndrome, the diagnosis is liver qi stagnation, which is an excess, creating spleen qi deficiency. So now we have the excess and the deficiency, right? So students will ask, liver 3 is part of the protocol. Do I sedate it? Do I tonify? What do I do with spleen 6? Do I sedate it? Do I tonify it? Well, when you select acupuncture points, they are for a specific reason. Liver 3 for irritable bowel syndrome, for example, your reason is it moves qi, right? That's pretty much why you're using it. So if it moves qi and that's the reason you use it, you are going to use it for liver qi stagnation, so you're going to have to sedate it. The reason why you're using spleen 6 is probably to tonify spleen, right? Because it's affected by the liver qi stagnation or liver overacting or over-controlling spleen, and that creates some spleen qi deficiency. So you're probably going to tonify spleen 6. So that means that some points in mixed patterns are going to be sedated and some points are going to be tonified. Let me walk you through 3 mini cases so we can really put this in practice. We have a stressed and exhausted 27-year-old woman who works at a desk. So her desk job is very highly stressful. She has tension headaches, specifically at the end of the day. So tension headaches usually comes from stress, right? So that's a liver qi stagnation with some liver yang rising that gets worse at the end of the day when she's more stressed. She has bloating and loose stools. We know loose stools is obviously often a spleen qi deficiency. Bloating can come from sitting all day, liver qi stagnation, and or spleen Qi deficiency, not being able to transform and transport. But we're going to see on her tongue, it is pale with teeth marks, it's scalloped, so there is a spleen deficiency, right? She also has irregular periods, but I'm not going to focus on this today because I want just a mini case to show you how we go about sedating and tonifying. She's irritable, that's a liver qi stagnation, becoming liver yang rising, and her pulse is thin and weak, specifically at the middle right position, which is the spleen position. So what do? We have a liver qi stagnation, excess, plus the spleen qi deficiency, right? We want to sedate liver 3, liver 14, and gallbladder 34. We want to tonify stomach 36 to tonify the digestive system, spleen 6 to tonify the spleen, of course, Ren 12 to help the stomach, all the digestive system. You can also add the UN source point of spleen, which is spleen 3. You're going to be with the flow of the meridian. Stomach 36 is perpendicular, so we don't have to worry. Same thing with spleen 6. However, if you're doing spleen 3, you go with the flow of the meridian, which means towards the ankle, going up, right? And you want to do gentle stimulation, and you can retain the needles a bit longer if you wanted to, although you don't have to do that. Have you subscribed to my free weekly newsletter yet? I share exclusive content I don't share anywhere else. I give you free PDF, case studies, so many tips and tricks on how to improve the way you understand and grasp TCM. You cannot miss it. And if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe anytime. The link is below for you. Make sure you get on it. Before we continue with the next case, I'm going to be really, truly honest with you. I don't do a lot of stimulation, which means I don't do a lot of sedating and tonifying. I prefer myself as a patient when my body goes and does the work with the needles and self-regulate. I don't like to have my needles stimulating. I feel like I'm just more calm, more relaxed. Most of the time I meditate during my session, and I feel like it works really well for me. So because of this, I don't do a lot of stimulation with my patients. However, if the patient is really excess, I will absolutely sedate and stimulate. If the patient is very weak, let's say it's an 80-year-old woman that's very deficient, does not have any excess, I won't stimulate the needles. I'm just going to let them be and then just let the patient relax. So you don't have to always sedate and tonify. And of course, we can adapt to each patient. Some patients don't like stimulations at all. Then I don't do it. Okay? So this is just a guide to help you understand, but always follow your gut, your intuition, your intention behind each needle for each patient. This video is sponsored by Jane, the practice management software and electronic medical record. I jumped in with Jane years ago when I went from paper, hello old school, to electronic, keeping up with the times. Running a practice, as you know, comes with a lot of moving parts, and Jane has been a game changer for me. From scheduling to charting to keeping everything organized and running smoothly behind the scene, Jane totally rocks. If you're curious to see how Jane can support you and your patients, I highly recommend you check them out here. And one last thing, if you're ready to start with Jane, you can use my code AcuPro1MO, 1 month, to get a 1 month grace period on your new account with Jane. The link and the code are in the description below. We have a 40-year-old male that works at a desk as well, has insomnia and a lot of stress. So one of the symptoms that he has is temporal headaches, just like the patients before, but he also has low back soreness or aches. He has tendency to have constipation, specifically dry pebbles. He has difficulty sleeping, specifically between 2 and 3 a.m., which we know is liver time. He also has night sweats, dry mouth and dry throat at night. His tongue is thin, dry, and cracked with a red tip. And he has also tinnitus, high-pitched tinnitus. His pulse is thin, rapid, and slightly weak. So we can see with this case that there is yin deficiency, right? The night sweat, the dry mouth at night, that is more yin deficiency. It's probably a kidney yin deficiency because of the chronic low back soreness as well. He also has insomnia where you wake up between 2 and 3 a.m. That is more liver yang rising. Why? Because there's also high-pitched tinnitus. There's temporal headache, so that's the stress that's coming up. Again, we have an excess and a deficiency. We're going to sedate with liver 2 to bring liver yang down. Gallbladder 20 is great to bring that liver yang down as well. Liver 3 to obviously move liver qi, because if there's a liver yang rising always comes from liver qi stagnation when there's stress, right? So we can also use other points to bring the energy down. Let's say there's high-pitched tinnitus, so of course you can use points like gallbladder 2, which is right on the tragus in front of the ear, and other points like Sanjiao 5 is a great point for tinnitus as well when it's high-pitched, right? There's many more points. I'm not focusing on this. I'm focusing on the sedating versus the tonifying, right? So for the sedating point, we want to reduce, we want to go against the flow. So liver 3, liver 2 can go against the flow. Would I do liver 2 and liver 3 on both sides bilaterally? No. I would do liver 2 on one side, liver 3 on the other side. I am of the school of thoughts, the least amount of needles, the better the treatment. Then when it comes to tonify, we want to tonify kidney yin. So kidney 3 is great, kidney 6 is great. They both tonify kidney yin. Spleen 6 is also a good point for yin deficiency. There's a lot of points we can use to tonify kidney yin. We could use kidney 7, which is great for night sweats. Heart 6 is also good for night sweat, insomnia, when there is yin deficiency. So that works really well as well, right? And the tip of his tongue is red. That means there's a bit of hard yin deficiency that's showing up as well, although there's not a lot of symptoms that correlate with it yet. We want to go with the flow. I would definitely do kidney 6 with the flow. Kidney 3, I keep it perpendicular. Spleen 6, same thing. Ren 4, same thing, right? But if I was going to do heart 6, I could go with the flow. Kidney 7, I would go with the flow. And of course, we are doing gentle stimulation. Before we continue, if you haven't got your copy of my Chinese medicine treatment made easy yet, it covers over 160 syndromes. I give you all the protocols, and now you'll know if you need to sedate or tonify all the points that come with this book. I have included herbal formula, acupuncture points, ear acupuncture protocol, diet recommendation, and you have the choice to order the hard copy, which ships all over the world by the publisher, or the PDF that you can download on any device. If you haven't got your copy yet, the link is below for you. Now let's look at the last mini case. We have a student that's 19-year-old that's going to university, and her major complaint is fatigue. She also has brain fog and cannot retain information while she is studying. She has mental fatigue and restlessness at the same time. She feels very heavy legs, like it's really hard for her to walk because she feels like her legs are super heavy. She has smelly loose stools. That's interesting, right? She's restless and she's tired. So mental restlessness, but tired physically. She has a burning sensation when she urinates. Her tongue has a thick, greasy yellow coat. She also has tinnitus where she feels like her ear is full and it's buzzing. And the pulse is mostly slippery. So with her, there is damp heat in the lower jiao because there's that burning sensation. And there's also a greasy yellow coat on the tongue. And there is smelly stools. Now, if it's loose stools, without a smell, it's a spleen qi deficiency. If it's smelly, then there is damp heat in the lower jiao. So in this instance, there's also the fatigue and the heavy legs, which means there's dampness, but also spleen qi deficiency. But there's also the damp heat, right? So she's tired, but she has that burning sensation. So it's a lot more excess than deficiency in this case. We can sedate spleen 9, best point for dampness. Bladder 22, also the Sanjiao backshoe point, clears dampness. Now we can also sedate large intestine 11, great point to clear heat overall. If there is burning sensation when she pees, it is due for this patient to cystitis. So it's not an infection, it's just inflammation of the urethra. So we can use liver 5 as one of the best points to clear the heat when it's affecting the urination. So that's a great point to add. Then we can, of course, tonify with spleen 3, spleen 6, stomach 36, because she's really tired, right? We could use points like do 20 to lift the energy. There's a lot of points you can use. But basically, we can tonify some points and sedate other points. Now, what's interesting about spleen 6 is that it can sedate and it can tonify. Do 20 can sedate and tonify. Lung 7 is the same thing. So that's the good part about it. So how do we know if we use it with one way or the other. Now with D20 and lung 7, it depends on the direction you are doing your insertion in the oblique way, with or against the meridian. With spleen 6, it's a perpendicular insertion, so it doesn't tell us. So think of spleen 6 as part of the protocol. It knows what to do. It knows that it needs to rebalance everything, but it does both. So the great part about spleen 6 is that it's going to help get rid of the dampness, but it's also going to help tonify the spleen. So it kind of goes and does both, which makes sense because if there's spleen Qi deficiency, there will be dampness. And if there's dampness for a long time, spleen Qi will be affected. The two are connected. So spleen 6, perfect point to balance both the excess and the deficiency. Then we don't have to worry. It's magic. To recap your 3-step decision framework, use the mental checklist at the treatment table every single time. What is the pattern? Excess, deficiency, or mixed? Look at the tongue pulse, duration, energy level, all your symptoms, and make sure you have a diagnosis. Now, if you still think, I don't know what my diagnosis is, I have a masterclass I created just for you. It is how to select acupuncture point even when you're not 100% sure of your diagnosis. It's 90 minutes, you get CEUs, and the feedback on this has been amazing because it was needed to be able to pick points. At the beginning, sometimes it's hard, right? We're like, I'm not really sure what the diagnosis is. And as we see the patients more and more, we come up with a better diagnosis. So in the meantime, I teach you how to select point even when you're not sure of your TCM diagnosis. The link is below for you. The second is, what is today's priority? Do we want to relieve the acute symptoms and focus on this, which is the branch, or do we want to build and strengthen long-term, which is the root? So often when we see someone, they come for, let's say, low back pain, we're probably just going to sedate and clear that low back pain that's very acute, right? And then as we go, we want to strengthen the lumbar, strengthen the kidney, strengthen the back. That's the root, so the patient does not get the recurring acute low back pain. Does that make sense? So you can focus just on the symptoms sometimes for the first time, and then you start building. You can do both as well. Again, follow your intention with each patient. And then you want to choose your technique and your tools. For excess points, we want to sedate, reduce. We can do cupping, for example. We can do bleeding techniques. For deficiency, we can tonify. We're much more gentle. We want to moxa. This is the perfect 3-step decision framework. Diagnose first, and always the technique will follow naturally. Guess what? You've got this. I hope this was truly useful because I know it's a big question that people ask all the time, and you can now know what to do next time when you have a patient that is excess, deficient, or mixed pattern, which is probably what we see most in practice. Thank you so much for your support. Watch this video next, and no matter what, keep rocking it using acupuncture because after all, acupuncture rocks!